Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Lee, and I'm here with Shira, Kim, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. In today's episode, we're going to talk about picking your battles. So let's get to it.
I don't know why I just laughed for no reason.
Take three.
Oh, no. I guess.
Nope. Keep going.
Yeah, who cares? Picking your battles.
So which one of you ladies would like to get us started?
Well, I remember when I was raising my kids that we would have that as an acronym. My ex and I, we would say PYB, which means pick your battles, like don't go there because it's not worth it. But the interesting thing is that sometimes whatever the battle was, I felt was worth it. He maybe thought it wasn't worth it. So I would sort of continue and then we would be off our other acronym, which was UF, which is United Front. So we had a lot of acronyms raising our kids until they figured out what they all meant. And then it was just like crap. But picking your battles it's a very personal thing. And I think when you come at it from it's a personal thing, you really do have to do your own internal work and say, especially when you feel like something's going off the rails, you have to kind of just pull it back a little and ask yourself, is this worth it? Is what I'm about to do worth it? Because sometimes we know how things are going to play out, right? Because it's like the insanity thing. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I do tend to go, this will turn into a battle if I continue this script. And so then sometimes you just have to change the script at a strategic place. Does that make sense?
I also want to add to that by saying that for me, I've conflated keeping the peace with avoiding confrontation a lot of the times in my life. So what that looks like in a lot of instances is me being like, it's not worth it, or like, they'll never understand anyway. And that's me already playing out the entire scenario without actually seeing what could play out if I just addressed the things that needed to be addressed. And most of the time, it's not as bad as I think it's going to be. Like that doomsday script that goes on in my head of like, if I address this, we're not going to be friends anymore. If I address this person is going to be mad at me. Like, oh, and God forbid that somebody be mad at me for me expressing my needs, So now I still usually put it off a little bit longer than I should, more than likely, but I do get all of the worst case scenarios out in my head. And then I like go straight into what I consider the fire and just get it. It's like our Band-Aid, just rip it off. Just say what you have to say, say it lovingly, say it from a place of neutrality. I don't let myself go into those situations when I'm heated, when I'm like, F this and this person did this. And like if I am feeling that way, that is not the time for that addressing. So I feel like I have to get to a place of neutrality before I can go there. But once I do, it feels so good. It feels so good to put it out there.
Juji, can I just ask you something about that real quick? When you need to get into this place of neutrality, well, what if someone's coming at you in this moment? Let's say I come at you with something and you're here, you're in this. How do you walk away? Do you tell them you need time? Like, how do you handle that?
That's interesting. I feel like one of the things that I've really learned is previously in my interactions, if somebody was confronting me, then what was so painful about that for me is thinking that if they were saying something that meant that was true about me. Like, and now I understand that it's their truth. It doesn't have to be the truth. In fact, what is the truth? It's not about that. It's about how does this affect me? How does this affect you? And if somebody comes at me now with, you did this, then a lot of the time I can be very neutral and say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that my actions affected you in that way. I can be very secure in knowing that that was not my intention, because my intention is always pure. My intention is always good. My intention is always not necessarily calculated, but comes from a place of love and joy and compassion. And if somebody didn't receive something that way, then I genuinely do feel like I should apologize, not for what I did, but that it was taken the way that it was. So there's a confidence in that. Like, if you know confidently in yourself that you always show up as your best self, no matter what, or you can even check yourself and be like, was I really showing up as my best, most sparkly self in that incident? And be able to say, like, you know what? You're right. I was in a crappy mood and I shouldn't have brought that energy to this space. And I am genuinely sorry that that's how it was received and that that's how you experienced it. And that makes it okay. If somebody continues then to, you know, like push that same button, I would say that's when the picking of the battles really needs to happen. And I either say, like, okay, you just don't seem to be receiving my energy in the way that it is intended on a consistent basis. So now I have to step back and remove my energy from this situation. Or we can work through it in that moment and then move on and not have to harp on it again. We don't have to return to that subject again. And I can feel good about that. It's a practice for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's usually in the initial, just the start of this uncomfortable either discussion, experience, whatever it is. And I'm not always in my most pure, loving state. I'm just not always. But what helps me is actually to take a little time. If there's something that I'm coming up against and it's uncomfortable, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, or I just feel like reacting, is once I'm aware of this feeling of discomfort, is I try to take a step back and give myself a moment to gather some thoughts. And it could be 10 seconds or 5 seconds, but I certainly, one of my own practices has been not to react suddenly, but rather to respond and then kind of take it from there. But yeah, to what you said, Juji, as far as like if something starts to get heated up and doesn't stop, yes, then I can choose to either walk away, because at that point, once my awareness is there, that's the time when I can make that decision of, like, being my own pure, loving, supportive self, if that even makes sense. And if I am there, then I can choose to walk away or not. And this is
I love that, Lee. And I think there's, sometimes I use the words like, I'm not willing to have this conversation right now. Maybe we can go to our corners and pick this up at another time. But I think depending on who you're having the quote battle with, there are some people in my life that are just more difficult, right? We all have the more difficult people in our lives. And I have found that when you can sort of see it coming from a mile away, like if someone's starting to like dig at you or pick at you or complain or whatever the case may be, and you're just not about it, I have found that this is going to sound weird and immature, but it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, look over here. Like you just sort of like dangle a shiny object over here. Let's talk about that now. So sometimes, and it's really empowering when you can do this effectively, if you feel the conversation about to like erupt, You literally just go, no, in your mind, I am not going there. It's just not happening. And then you literally lead the conversation into another lane. And for some people that are more difficult, sometimes they're not even aware that you're doing it, but it's like a strategic move on your part to go, keep them a peace. This is not going to end well. And you just go, what do you want for lunch? Or how about those nuts? Or
Kira, I love what you're saying right now. I love it because I'm sitting over here smiling because there's somebody in my life, a family member who is difficult. And actually, this person is mentally ill and they really live in the past. So the past comes up nonstop. And this person also like thrives on conflict, like literally. She's really the only person I know who really lives like that, like just needing conflict to survive on a daily. And sometimes that conflict is like pointed in my direction, sometimes it's not. But I do that. That's one of my tools in my toolbox is she'll mention something from the past that like really triggers me that I don't think is true, but in her mind it's true. And she wants to argue about it. Or she wants some sort of conflict, you know, and it never ends well. And when I was younger and I didn't have all these tools or anything, I didn't know how to handle even my own emotions, I would just react and it would be a fight and there would be yelling, no talking. And it was so unhealthy, you know, and I look back and I'm like, wow, I really was not equipped at all to handle this illness, like this behavior. But now as I get older, I do that. I have like sort of this like, oh, she's going there. And I, you know, redirect it. And I just bring something up and it works. It really works.
it really does.
And when I'm also, let's just say, you know, battling something, I hate the word battle, so to speak, because sometimes it's just so small. It doesn't feel like a battle per se, but like with my own husband who, you know, evolves every day. I see his beautiful evolvement all the time. Now we're at this place in our marriage where we could agree to disagree. And it is so lovely because before I'd say like 8 years ago, you know, if he wanted to say something about something and I didn't agree, I'd be like, well, let's just agree to disagree. And he would be like, no, but listen, but let me just tell you this. And I'm like, but you don't need to, because I just don't agree. And I need you to respect that. So let's just agree to disagree. And he just couldn't do it. Where now, fast forward, I think he's lived with me long enough. Now he could do it. Now he's like, Kim, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. And I was like, great.
Imagine if more people could do that.
It's not easy, but like now it's easier. It's Juji, you said it. It's practice.
But also like all the big fights start with little things, right? Don't you find that? It's always these little stupid, insidious things that we just have to be right about, or the other person just has to be right about. And there is something about being older and wiser where you can just go, yeah, okay. Like pick your battles. No, fine, do that. It's fine.
But sometimes you guys, it's like, what I find is honestly, a lot of the times it's not even about me. It's being directed towards me in that moment, right? But I can really sift through like, oh yeah, like I just stuck my finger in a wound that I had no idea about. And like now it's gushing blood all over me and messy, but I don't have to take that personally. And I can be like, okay, place of neutrality. Let's talk through where this came from. You know?
But only if you have a willing partner who's also in that mindset, can you actually get, but that's what I'm saying. Like there are some people that are just like, no matter what you say, it's just going to be a battle. So you might as well preserve your peace.
And a good question to ask yourself, if it is one of those people, is what's underneath this? Because I know that family member I was referring to earlier, she'll bring up things from the past and it triggers me because she'll bring up things that, you know, had to do with me or involved someone I care about. And, you know, from asking myself that question, is it really about what she's talking about, or is it about something deeper? And it's always something deeper, you know, but it takes me a minute and a conversation with myself to like realize what the heck is going on inside of myself and why it's triggering me so much. Yeah, but also as I get older, realizing that I mean, you guys probably tell me if you feel this as well. I feel like I just don't have the energy. Like it's just too much energy. Like if it's exhausting, like I just want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't deal with it exactly. And I feel like also in these situations where we are triggered by people in our lives that we're constantly triggered over and over and over again, this is where we just need to know how to handle it differently. Like, what are we going to do differently now where this is not going to be as big of a trigger or as much of a reactive kind of a thing, you know? And it's a choice. It's just really a choice. And yes, I'm totally with you on that, Kim. I'm just, you know, I can't go there anymore. I'm just, you know, not just tired, but just, I choose not to, you know, these places that are just not good, positive places. You know, these are the choices we get to make every day.
I so agree, Lee. And I actually wanted to go back to something Juji just said before, which really resonated with me, which is, am I not picking the battle? Am I not willing to go there because I'm trying to keep the peace at my own expense? Because there have been many times in my life where I have held my tongue because I'm like, well, if I bring this up, that's going to aggravate them, or maybe they're right, or just not listening to your own needs. And so that would cause a lot of inner turmoil for me, where I'm like, I'm not picking the battle. The thing is persisting. I feel shitty about myself because I'm not saying anything. I'm not really keeping the peace at the end of the day. Like, what the actual F? So there are times where I have to literally say, no, I am going to go there. Am I going to be perfect about it? No. Like these are practicing is messy. It's just messy because you want to imagine that you're practicing something and you're getting good at it, but it takes freaking time. So there have been several instances since my most recent transformation where I have had to go down a route that's uncomfortable for me, but I go there anyway because I'm like, I'm not willing to give up my own sense of self anymore. Like, I need to speak up.
Yeah.
That's
And,
such a good point.
yeah. What do you find would be the difference between that and, you know, actually, or maybe the difference it would be avoiding it altogether? Because that's another choice we have, is like, we can start to just say, you know, hey, uncomfortable, I don't know, let me avoid it, right? But are we being true to ourselves?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just saying. And sometimes I will battle within myself and go, well, like I'll be very, I'm going to definitely talk about this. And then I start second guessing. And I'm like, well, it's not that big of a deal. And like just pussyfoot around and minimize it. And then I just remind myself, but that's what you've always done. Right. And if you've always done what you always do, what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Like, duh. So there are certain instances, even with the people closest to me, where I behaved in a certain way or allowed certain things for a long time. And then all of a sudden I'm kind of not. And, the other person can be like, well, what are you talking about? Like, it's been this way forever. Why? And I'm like, because I'm allowed to change my mind. That's why I'm allowed to change my mind.
That's right. So God given right.
Sorry, Lee. Paying attention to how we feel. Because like you said, if there's any uncomfort in there, it could be for our growth and to practice speaking up and standing up for ourselves or whatever, if that battle is worth it, speaking our voice, expressing ourselves, or it could be the opposite way of avoiding. So it's like, I think you just have to really pay attention to how you feel, because I think deep down, you'll know if you're uncomfortable and it's leaning in one direction or the other. It might feel scary, but you have to do it. Or the opposite, like I do that all the time with that family member where I'm just like, nope, what's going to help me is going to be not having that conversation. And it's like, there's nothing in me that doubts that at all. And if I am in doubt, I say, go to your tribe and your sisters and your brothers and ask their opinion, because that's what a support system is there for.
Amen, sister.
Good point.
Yeah. And I think this is a great place to wrap it up, ladies. We hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. If you like our episodes, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions down in the comments below. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching and stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.